Fellas, what's going on? Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. We almost at 180, yo. Episode
Wow.
Yeah.
180. This is 179. We're like coming up there. Like, episode 200 is around the bend. But it's so good to see y'all. Chris, you started something last week that I really enjoyed. I think it's just important conversation to have every day with yourself as well as with others. What'd you read? What'd you write? What'd you learn about? What you thinking about? So we're gonna start off with that. So cool. What you got, Doc?
Let's see. I'm in the middle of writing a bunch of different reports, man. So we have a follow-up to the Black report, basically Black-led, charter networks from the voices of Black students. We did a Brown version, so the copy for that is done and that's being edited, and it'll be beautiful and should be out in a few weeks. The Oakland report on continuation schools and people understanding it, and basically how Oakland pushes out Black and brown kids. We start with a number in freshman year, and right now the third largest holder of Black seniors and brown seniors are both continuation schools respectively, and just been working, man, and just trying to stay on the grind, stand out the way. It's been a lot happening, so I'm happy to see y'all though, man. It's good to see you boys.
Yeah, I feel you. Stuart.
All right.
With the W, with the win.
The W for the win. Maybe this will stand for Washington Post tonight, because the one thing that I wanted to bring up is my thing that I read that I learned this week is in the Washington Post. I got it right here. The most regretted and lowest paying college majors. Almost half of humanities and arts majors regret their choice, and enrollment in those disciplines is sharply declining. This is a survey, federal survey that they're talking about, where 2 out of 5 people regret their major, and the highest regrets are for those that did humanities, social and behavioral sciences, vocational and technical training, and education. The lowest regrets are people who went into engineering, computer and information sciences, physical sciences and math, health, life sciences, and law. So I have a theory about this. My quick theory is
one makes money and the other one don't.
Well, I mean, some of these humanities folks will write books, and they'll make money. They'll repackage their trainings, and they'll become experts and gurus and something. That's how you make your money in that field. But these other ones require a hard discipline. So when you make your decision to go into one of these, it's not by accident. It's not because it's the last thing available or the easiest lift, or, I was interested in criminology or in social stuff, or I like psychology. I like, the way people think, whatever. It's not based on that. Because if you go into engineering or one of these other, hard degrees, computer information sciences, physical sciences, health, life sciences, law, you better have something that lets you know ahead of time that you love this, because the education part of it is going to be grueling if it's not something that you're into. Whereas some of these other ones, I think we push a lot of people into college and they go the path of least resistance. I'm going to go to college, but I'm going to do the easiest possible thing that I can think of while I'm there. I'm going to come out, I'm going to be in debt, I'm going to be broke, and then I'm going to tell the Washington Post that I regret my decision.
I think you bring up an interesting point, particularly I think the highest, let me make sure I get this right, as far as people with degrees, the highest number of folks in a particular career are teachers, right? So in the 4-year degrees, teachers have the most kind of spaces in that area. And I think when I think about someone that majored in math, I think you gotta love what you do, right? And I agree with you, and I think there's also some nuance to what you said, not just people finding it easy. I think there's some folks who don't know what they want, right? They may not have been exposed enough to things. They may not, we still have so many schools that haven't even given Black kids high levels of math to even see, or they may have just, the teacher was afraid of math and passed that on, to their kids, right? And so to their students. And so I think so often there's so much of that. But I've met so many Black youth. They're like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I need a degree, and then I'll get a degree, then I'll figure it out, right? And so then they're just going and showing up and just all right, well, I'll pick that or I'll choose that. Instead of, as you said, if you're engineering, you probably had some exposure, you were interested, you loved math, science, because it was interesting. A couple sciences were on there, right? And so those are things that, and I think we got to keep exposing our kids, giving the opportunity, recognize all little kids are scientists. They all trying to figure something out. How do we make sure
let me
we
say
keep
this too. I just want to make one quick point, which is they didn't break it down by race. And I think I would find it really interesting because I don't know that it's black folks or brown folks that have the most regret, because if you went to college and you came out with a degree, and people of color, regardless of what it's for, if you're working, you might be feeling okay. I don't know. They didn't break it down by race. There's a lot of white folks regret their decision.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to make this a black thing because
no. I wasn't saying it from like I agree with you. Like they were doing it overall, but I'm just adding like just a layer to that. Our experiencing kids. Well, look, man, we're never not talking about politics, right? On the show, politics come up, and we know there's a whole lot of folks that like politics shouldn't be involved in education. We're just like, wait a minute, you use politics to underfund it, to ban us, to redline us, to decide what we get. All the research, you use politics, but don't talk about politics. When you're talking to us. So both on the show as well as outside of the show, we're always talking. Some of it is tongue in cheek, some of it is just like interesting because we, part of what we bring to the table are 4 political views that has a lot of overlap. I look at our work as like a 4 integrated Venn diagram. The circles, things that we kind of have our own ideas about, and then things that we have internal that we're all committed. That 8 million Black children obviously is in the middle. We come from a lot of different political views, perspectives. Y'all used to get on me because I shared and like transparency, because before we started talking about being transparent, we just talked, right? We didn't say like, I'm about to be transparent. This is a safe space. Like all this weird language now that people have to introduce. But I share like, I ain't vote.
Why it gotta be weird? Why it gotta be weird?
It's different. It's different. What I mean?
Different.
Everything is like a prelude before, like, hey, I'm about to be transparent.
But don't let us sound like the gray in our beards.
Yeah,
don't have us out here.
Like just talk, brother. Talk. I want to hear about safe spaces. Just talk. What you got to say? But I shared like I didn't vote for a long time. Like I was like into my career before I came to the conclusion that it was a part of a tool, to move things forward. As a collective, if we can organize it and things like that. And I'm happy to have this conversation. About what is political chump. And I got that, part of the reason I didn't vote, Malcolm used to talk about like you're a political chump because he said you're just a tool for the 2 parties. And so I'm glad to, one, understand, as I got older, like understand some of the nuance a little better, particularly locally, like what that meant in Philly, what that meant in West Philly for our councilman and state senator. But, really excited to have, Mike Bland who leads Leaders of Color, part of Democrats for Education Reform. This brother's from New Jersey. He's always been in public service. And before he joined the DFER team, Democrats for Education Reform, he was a campaign manager for Johanna Hayes, who I just love and appreciate. I think we need far more dope educators who become, politicians who are bringing that, that perspective, that experience. And for those of you who do not know, Johanna Hayes was the National Teacher of the Year in 2018. And I had the pleasure of meeting her that, when she got her award and things like that. I was still doing some work with the U.S. Department of Ed. So, that's when I first started hearing, about Mike and his work. And of course, he was also a chief of staff and, in New Jersey. And, he was a contributor to Obama's campaign. And so really excited to have this brother on so he can talk about his work at Leaders of Color, but then also some of the nuance of like, how do we avoid being political chumps? How do we be political champs for our kids, and what does it mean to do that, right? Because I hear some in the conversation about just vote. And that's the end game. Like, all right, vote and then what? But how does a grandparent see like my vote? I've been voting for 40 years. how do I see the difference in my grandkids' education that I didn't see in mine or my children? And I've been voting. I've been consistently voting, right? So don't tell me that it's just that, right? Like, I'm not a grandfather. I'm speaking, hypothetically. But Mike, welcome. Glad to have you here, bro. National Director, Leaders of my fault. I left the national joint out, but national director. He fixed that real quick. Good to see you, man. It's always a pleasure. And for folks who don't know, Chris Stewart and Mike Bland are part of the steering committee for the 5th annual National Black Educators. Black Men Educator Convening, BMEC, which will be happening later in November. I appreciate these brothers' insights and experiences. So, Mike, welcome, bro.
Thank you, man. It is, man. As I said earlier, I feel like I'm a recruit going to Alabama being on this podcast.
Or Temple recruits get love too. You know what I'm saying?
Stop it.
If we're gonna go here, we might as well say Jackson State. Give our brother Deion some love.
There you go.
Yes.
For the people that don't know football, these are all college football references. People, I know some people that's like, what are they talking about? Why?
I was talking about the academic scholarship. I wasn't talking about football, but yeah, go ahead.
Mike and I are talking about football. Damn it!
Oh, all right. I was talking about Temple's academic recruits, but go ahead, get down. Do be great.
Yeah, listen, everybody be great. I mean, this is just, when I started working in this space and being involved in education reform, seeing the work that you brothers have done has been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, having the ability to give brothers and sisters a platform, particularly around education reform, and then have the ability to digest the political system is something that I think is not only needed, but I'm a brother that I'll tell you all the time, let's not mistake activity for achievement. Let's stop living in hypotheticals. Let's stop living in the land of about to do. Famous words by now Congresswoman Jahana Hayes. Let's get to work, because a lot of times in our spaces we hear a lot about the problems, but hopefully we can offer solutions and really dig deep, because this is something that is very beyond sensitive to me. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. When folks talk about their why, this is my why. Outside of my 2 beautiful twin daughters, this is why I wake up every day and grab my hammer and go to work. So I'm looking forward to being here, jumping in some dialogue, and this is fun, man. So I'm looking forward to it.
So, Mike, let's start off. Like, tell us about your work specifically. Like, Leaders of Color, what do you do? What does it represent, and how is this, important info for communities of color, particularly, parents and community members that send their kids to school?
Brother Sharif, you've been in this game longer than I have. And I do not mean that as a slight, but
but it's all right. It's all good. It's all right. It's all right. You're like, yo, you old, so you already know what I'm saying. Like, it's all good.
Listen, you're a giant in this game. And I really mean that. I mean, we use this phrase that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I remember when I took this job in 2019, July 1st, you were one of the 6 names that came up on this huge PowerPoint that I had that, had to learn more about education reform, and who were the major players across the country, specifically that look like me. And so Leaders of Color was founded, I like to say, on the back of a napkin. Our president, I like to call him one of the greatest mentors I know, Brother Shavar Jeffries.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Got to give love to my brother Shavar Jeffries, man. I love that guy. And, it was a concept that said, for far too long, Black and brown folks have had decision makers in their communities that don't look like them. And oftentimes, I think what made us a good match is I've said I've been doing this work for over a decade now. And the problem is that we don't have folks that have lived experiences that look like us at the table, right? So folks live in the land of about to do, they pull a binder, they'll do a focus group, they'll do polls, they'll do all these great things. But what they won't do is go to the communities and ask the folks that live there. And so when I think of this work, I think of a sister back in my hometown called Sister Dorothy Bowles. She lived in the Garfield Court projects. And anytime you wanted to give votes, you went to her family, you went to Miss Jean Hastings' family. Because not only just to give votes, but to learn what was going on in the community. I always said, if you want to get the Black vote, you have to talk to folks who live there. Similar to when I started this work, another sister that was doing this work was Sister Sarah Carpenter. I call her the grandmother of education reform. Because whenever
Mama Sarah,
gotta love us on Mount Sarah. When I'm in her presence, constantly she is, beating the horn of, well, Mike, this is what we need to do. So what are you doing? And I freeze. And I was honestly, because I say, we're not doing enough fast enough. A lot of folks say take your time, but here's a problem. We've been taking our time for far too long. Everybody's been telling us to take our time. So Leaders of Color was a concept that was derived to give Black and Latino leaders in their community, who make up this large enclave of the communities in urban districts where we are marginally represented. And we see that we have folks that don't look like us. Excuse my phrase, but I often call them the colonizers, that look like us, doing referendums and laws. And we wonder why we still have the same institutional problems. I also say that, just because you're Black or brown does not mean you know everything or you have the tools that you can properly speak up for our community. Because here's a problem. We just haven't been given the tools. We just haven't been given the advice. We just haven't, a lot of folks don't know what a budget is, let alone you're asking folks to do $20 million or $20 billion budgets. Meanwhile, they only have about less than $1,000 in their bank account. So how can they manage a city budget? So Leaders of Color was founded to give folks leadership tools, to give them political tools, to give them advocacy tools, to show them, hey, whether you want to be a political leader or whether you want to be a civic advocate, let's give you the tools so you can, so we can go past step 2, so we can get past the first base. So now let's hit the home run, or at least get to third base. And when we go to third base, we can take somebody else with us. So, I've been in this role for 3 years, and the greatest thing, the testament to this work, we've had over 74% of our leaders become civic leaders in their community. We've helped elect over 30 leaders or folks that are in positions of power, and it's going to make the difference. Hopefully, we know Memphis has been going through a tumultuous time this past week. But I like to say we have a lot of leaders in positions of power in Memphis. So, and then we also have New York City. We also are in Washington, D.C., in the state of Louisiana. So we're looking to expand, looking to go to work and continue to empower in our own community to give them the tools for success.
No, I love how you talk about like the tools, right? Because it's not just I love Black people, and then jump into, right? Like it's like, how do we train our replacements? How do we support folks? And what I did not know that you shared was this goes beyond people who are going into a specific political seat. You said, civic leaders as well, which would include school boards.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, Sharif, that is.
And then Chris, I'd love for you to jump in, about that as well.
It has to be school boards. Our school boards are one of our biggest fiduciary arms in our communities. And so when we look at who gets contracts, who gets hired, we look at our curriculum. We look at the advancement of curriculum, the school infrastructures. A lot of times we've let the same folks who've been there for the same time. And believe it or not, my community is criminal to this. We have 5 folks since I was in middle school, and I'm going back to 1997, who still sit on the Board of Education. That is an indictment on the system. Now I'm not negating their leadership, but what I am saying, you mean to tell me there are folks in the communities that have not only gone and left and learned, but there are other folks in the community that could have valuable input, right? So when we think about what our Black and brown babies need in all of our communities, the people who are making decisions for the last 30 years can still not sit at the table and make the same decisions. And we see the same thing in the United States Congress. So, Brother Sharif, I'm talking about from school board all the way to up to the United States Senate. These are issues. These are systemic issues, systemic problems that leaders of color are trying to inoculate and be a solution to the problem, and build that ecosystem that everybody so wants so bad, that the Republican Party has done so well, providing the ecosystem. Look at the Amy Coney Barrett's of the world, the sister in Georgia, the sister over in Colorado. And where did they come from? They came from school boards. And they paved the way to get them in positions of Congress. And we're saying, well, where did they come from? They were built in the ecosystem, right? So it's even this cry to the Democratic Party, let's invest in ecosystems such as Leaders of Color and other phenomenal organizations around the country who are trying to build an ecosystem, who are trying to build a bench to better not only the local politics, but the federal politics as well. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Chris, as particularly school boards, which you were a member, and you've watched a lot of school boards, and you also encourage many people to run. How does this land with you, and particularly what is some of the training and development you think that future school board members should have, or who's the right profile to to be on there? I am nervous about people like, oh yeah, I'm passionate about kids. I don't know anything about budget. I don't think about management. I don't know anything about any of that, but I love kids. So school board is the right spot for me. I'm nervous about that too. So how do you think about all of that?
I mean, I think it'd be hard to give somebody advice to be as good of a school board member as I was.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Because I was the best at it that there has ever been. So it'd be hard. No, let me say
W for the win.
this. Let me say
W for
this.
the win.
Let me say this. First of all, there's a big barrier between things, between running for elected office and common people. People think that, what do I have to offer? I don't even have the skills or the background or the time, or I don't have a college degree, or I don't, So there's this artificial barrier between people in the process of power. And what I like to remind folks is not everybody's got to run for everything, and not everybody's got to run, period. There's lots of roles that have to be taken up and have to be played. One of the very toughest roles ever, for instance, like with school board. If someone decides to run for school board, most of the good campaign managers are sucked up by other offices. So there aren't a lot of great campaign managers, even for school board members, which leaves this huge opportunity and vacuum for people who want to access democracy in the system and play a role and be a part, because supporters, catcallers, marchers, people who will stand with you at board meetings while you're running for your candidacy or whatnot. There's a role for everybody. So I just want anybody listening to this, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, you can have power in the process, because you can participate, you can support, and you can develop, into a candidate if you want to be one. And if you want to, we need more educators running for state reps, state senators. We need more parents and more people on the ground running for school boards. We need more people more educators and education-minded people on city councils and in mayor's offices, right? Some of the best people I ever worked with when I was on the board were people that were educated related before they got into political work. Meaning I'd meet somebody at the mayor's office or somebody who's a staffer on the city council for one of the city council members who really got education, understood it. So when I would request that we work together or come together, I knew that I had allies in different offices, and that's how you form a movement. So I have joked before, everybody should run for school board once, just so you get the muscle memory of what it's like, just so you make yourself heard. You don't even have to run to win. That's the other thing about running for school board that I like to tell people. One role that people play in running for the school board.
How you gonna have a W hat on and then still like, hey, you can lose, just go in.
There is a way to run for school board even when you know that the deck is stacked against you, because you know that you're going to have a platform that people are going to listen to, and you get the issues, right? You get the issues into the media. So when I ran, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to win, but I didn't care. I didn't care whether I was going to win or not. As a matter of fact, I ran like I had nothing to lose. And I told the truth everywhere I went. I raised issues that other people didn't raise. And I won with 42,000 votes. Just want to say this, which is more than minor. It's not minor. It's not minor when I won that in the city. And there's a lot of people who win state office who don't get 42,000 votes. And then I was on the school board. I was an activist and I was on the school board. Nothing remarkable that I would say other than it was a very big learning experience. Not everybody is cut out for it, but everybody can support somebody else doing it. And that's what I've been doing since. When I left, it was just clear to me within a year and a half, it wasn't for me. It was just clear to me like I could be more dangerous outside of that system. But I have supported so many people since, and everybody can do that. Yeah.
No, and I'm so glad to see Jumoke in there, Doc, and you've worked with Sister Jumoke, so much, and particularly like the school board. And I want to tie two things. One, what you saw, like how can communities rally around leaders of color, particularly like in this space, whether they're politicians or school board, like any of that policy space, Cole. And then Mike, I would love for you to piggyback off of that and really share like how, leaders of color and other organizations like yours, how do they build up, you talk about ecosystem to like grow and nurture. What's the ecosystem of protection? Because, if you stand up for Black children, Black communities, you're basically painting a very large target on you, and those daggers are going to come from all over. So, Cole, with you, shout out to Sister Jumoke and everyone else who's on school boards or have been on school boards who, spoke truth and really weighed in for kids, because it's not the safest space,
Well, the funny thing is how Jamoke and I actually met was when I was still the vice chair of the Black Young Dems in California, and we had just co-founded Black Young Dems Bay Area, and we were meeting because I was going to help run her campaign for school board. It didn't go that way, but me and her ended up becoming really good friends and doing this work. I think so the answer around how can you rally behind leaders of color, this, that, and the third. I'm gonna be, y'all know me, man. Real answer, right answer. Right answer is support your leaders of color. Make sure we pushing people to do X, Y, and Z here, there, whatever, right? The real answer is when you get local, like I think a lot of times people think of politics as just only this very national thing, party identity and stuff like that. When it gets local, where parties don't really matter as much and it's people kind of the same race, like, you know what I'm saying? It becomes a very serious conversation. So we had a rule just in the Young Dems, right? Like, which was kind of held us back a bit, but we had rules of how if there's another Black person in this race and how you're supposed to engage and do X, Y, and Z. Far be it to say that a lot of those rules went out the window, and especially everybody that was joining that was a person of color was not out for Black people. Or to be very fair, maybe everybody thought they were serving Black people, but they really disagreed on how it happened and how it worked out. So I think the best thing that you can do if you're listening is be informed on the issues that's coming up. Be informed on your school board member's job. I think a lot of people are not fully aware of what the responsibility of somebody in that role is or in that office is. And I think the first thing is that you got to become informed, because the other side banks on you not knowing what the hell you talking about. For instance, school board members don't hire and fire teachers. They don't go in and tell schools how they run this, that, and the third. They have a very direct, strict role that is their job. And a lot of times voters don't know. And to be quite honest, in places like Oakland, there are a lot of school board members that overstep those bounds, and it's just mad chaos. So I think the best thing you can do is make sure that you are informed. But we got Mike on. I'm sure Mike, and I love Defer and all that stuff, man. So, you know, maybe Mike has a different spin or answer on that. I wasn't trying to bring the room down, but, you know, I think it's been a big thing about support your leaders of color, support your leaders of color. But what if them cats want to kill me? What if them cats is not really for me? What if them cats is fighting for these crumbs that no longer serve me, and there's somebody else behind that? And these are not hypotheticals. This was like my life.
Political chumps. You saw political chumps, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and again, only reason I just say that, and Mike, I'm gonna throw it to you this time, I promise. But only reason I say that is because I knew that there was a lot of people that looked like me whose hearts was in the right place. I know that there was a lot of people that felt that they was doing the right thing. I know there's a lot of celebrities, for instance. As soon as a union, like the teachers union, comes and talks to them, they automatically trust them because that's how we've been trained to do. And I think that identity politics on certain things, you got to read the fine print, especially when you're going into somebody's voting booth. I'd rather you not vote than just vote blindly. I'm just going to be 1,000 on that.
Yeah, Cole, the young Democrat, just discouraged people from voting. Good Lord.
I did not. I said, no, what the hell you voting on?
What's up, Mike?
Listen, I think, hey, brother Cole, listen, this is the problem. I say I'm the toughest Democrat there is south of heaven, because I feel that a lot of times when we, think about these races for school board that go unopposed, then think about the folks that are running. Again, like I talked about, folks institutionally, I've been there for over 20 years. The one thing that I live by, whether it be leaders of color or what I've grown to as a former college athlete, this acronym is TBA, trust, belief, and accountability. And then we have this saying internally in our own kitchen, the Black and brown community, not all skin folk are kinfolk. Mm-hmm. When we worked, for example, when we worked to get President Obama, we worked our tails off. And I won't cuss because I cuss like a sailor, but I don't.
Man, you fit right in with these two, bro. Like, yeah, you did. Be great. Do your thing.
What the hell are you talking about, Sharif? Continue.
When we worked our ass off to get President Obama elected in 2008 and 2012, what we failed to do was continue to go back in the midterms and work local elections. And then when we got people of color elected, what we didn't do was go to those city council meetings, those school board meetings, those county commissioner meetings, and I would say not only help them, but hold them accountable. So for example, we get one of ours elected for the first time. We're like, oh, for the first time in history, they've done this or they've done that, they've gotten elected. So then what? And we disappear and wonder what happens while they're getting outraised 3-1 in the next election. We're not hosting fundraisers for them. We're not hosting town halls for them. We're not writing op-eds on their behalf on the referendums, laws, and legislation that they're getting passed. So for us, it's also because it's work, right? I often look at the political process like the exercise process, if you will. You want to lose weight, you got to work at it. You want the political system to work for you, you got to work at it. You just can't go vote and walk out. You got to continue to, energize, mobilize, and organize. And I often say that's what happened. That's how we got a Donald Trump. And I don't want to go down this hole. We got all cute because we got Barack Obama elected, and folks similar to myself got great paying jobs and got put in different agencies. And then we forgot who we were. We are, as a people, we are collectively organizers. You can go back to, when we got 1619, you can talk about that. We organized how to get ourselves out of slavery. We organized ourselves past the suffrage movement. We've organized ourselves during the civil rights movement. And so we organized ourselves to get brothers and sisters like Shirley Chisholm, Charlie Rangel, so many different folks, people of color elected. And then we forgot, we worked hard enough, so then we got to stop. And so the same thing happens in the education system. And the one thing that I will call out, Sharif, and I think you probably can remember this when you and I were at a conference, the one thing I say, healthcare becomes a crisis. Roe v. Wade becomes a crisis. The one thing that's not screamed from the mountaintops is the education crisis in this country. And I pause there because when you read a report that says our kids are 2 years behind, but then you read some of the great work that our leaders are doing, and I love to call out one or two of our leaders are educators in the soon-to-be hopefully 51st state, Washington D.C., where their babies are proficient in beyond grade level. But now we're saying our babies are 2 years behind. Well, where's the crisis behind that? Where's the emergency funding behind that? Where's the caucus behind that? Where's the great collective meeting behind that? And so that's why we've got to continue to work in this thing called electoral politics, because it is a constant struggle, because it is work, because it is a progressive science. We've learned from 2008, from 2012 to 2016, or 2019, from COVID to now, how you organize in these political spheres are totally different. It's a collective, it's a progressive science. But the one thing I could always go back to, particularly people of color, we know how to organize. That's why when they want to win, they come to us, not just because we're in the margins and we can push them over, because we do it better than anybody else. And so collectively, when folks are discouraged about the voting process, they're discouraged about, well, I don't know if I want to run. Here's a hint. We've been here from 1500, 1600. Nobody's coming to save us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So that's why, particularly in leaders of color, we try to push our leaders and say, oh, don't say wait, because the crisis is already here. Nobody's coming to save us. That's why we put over 70 hours in training Black and brown leaders. That's why we put the work in to pay to get them a good one-on-one coach for an extra 10 hours of work, right? We want to expose them to different conferences and different areas and give them that organic space where collectively it looks the same, but it's different geographically. And so where else can we do this? And that's why I push our leaders. I always say, so what else are you doing outside of your geographical area? Stop saying it's different. It's not. It looks the same everywhere. I just came from Puerto Rico, and it looks exactly the same here as it does in Hartford, Connecticut. Right? So when are we going to stop working in silos and start saying, okay, let's row the boat in the same way? And so not to sound constantly harp on a problem, but I think we have to start offering each other more solutions and stop thinking we don't have the answers. When, trust me, Sharif, you've been in these rooms as much as I have, Brother Chris, right? We've all been in these rooms and we sit back, am I the smartest person in this room? This thing is not that hard. It's just us putting the work and the sweat equity to do the work.
How do you react to that? Chris, particularly in like communications, right? Like how do you, so much of this is like, communication. And I really, what I love about that, it all resonates, but very particular that stood out, Mike, was this idea that, getting elected is not then just party for the next 4 years. It seemed like sometimes people were organizing and working hard at creating memes, about Obama than actually jumping in and doing the extra work that has to, continue, right? Because other people were organized. Like racism is always organizing, so like the fact that people were putting their guard down is to me the most shocking. Less shocking than Trump winning, shocking that people continue to put their guard down while you're behind enemy lines. Like to me, that's the crazy. Like just assume you're always behind enemy lines.
That's right.
In these spaces, and what are you going to do? But Chris, like, how does this all play out with like, communications? You do that professionally, and what are trying to think about like grassroots and other communication efforts. How can that kind of come together to, do this support, but also the accountability? Because accountability got to be more than just 4 years later. Like, oh, you're accountable because I'm gonna vote you out. Like, that's 4 years. That's a long time for people to be pushing nonsense. Say, I'll get you in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, so listen, communications can only get you so far. You can only do so much with communications and politics and voting. We have a Democratic president. We've had Democrats hold all the cards in the power to be able to change things. We had money fall from the sky from every direction. Almost $200 billion showered on schools and states that didn't know how to spend it and still haven't spent it all. We have lots of politicians who talk a lot of things, but every 4 years, it's fully fund our schools versus school choice. That's the only that's the size of the imagination of the people that we're voting for. So we are suckers, dummies, and chumps if we think we're going to vote our way out of the pedagogical problems that are beguiling our children. So the real problem that I see here is that education problems require education solutions. Education problems and pedagogical problems and knowing how to run a good school. If we filled this conversation right now that we're having with 20 to 40 people who are running really good schools, who know how to use a budget and staff and curriculum and time and a schedule to get the most out of learning, those aren't people who are going to be running for office soon. So the disconnect between what a politician knows about schools, who you're voting for. So we're voting for a whole slate of people. I can name prominent Democrats right now that are Twitter celebrities. We're voting for them so hard. And when I say we, I'm not a Democrat, so it's not me. I'm just saying there's like, we socialize these people into almost being the next Harriet, right? Stacey Abrams is the next kind of like, like her win in as a governor would be monumental for us. The problem with thinking that way is that many of the people that we hold up that are running for office and winning have no education solutions. They don't know anything about education. Many of them are middle class or first gen middle class, college educated people who have adopted a whole language and a way of thinking, very ambitious people who want to be governor one day when they've been on the school board for 3 weeks, they want to run for Congress, whatever. And that's a whole different group of people. That's not education people. The whole group of people that I know that are running for offices in different places who've been on the job that they're on for 5 minutes and now they're ready to go to Congress or whatever. That's a different animal. That's a different species. That's a political species who's going to pitch you political things. And when it comes to education, they're going to put their hand up and they're going to figure like which way is the wind blowing. Because, it's a mechanical apparatus that gets you elected to these offices, which requires organizations and vested interests and people who have a lot of stuff going on that has nothing to do with schools or education. So I don't blame you as a person who's college educated, trying to rise up the ranks in the Democratic Party, any party, and become elected for saying very facile and surfacey things about school, right? Talking in complete talking points. You have a conversation with someone, listen, you better agree with them on everything else besides education, because when they start talking about the education part, they sound like they're 15 years old. They sound brand new half the time when I talk to candidates. So anyways, that's not the message I think that is supposed to come out of this, but I am telling you,
no, I think it's helpful. I think
we're not going to vote our way out of this. And I think most of the people that we try and elect to offices or whatnot and get elected are eating educational baby food. When it comes to the like if I had to write a speech for someone right now, I did this at a dinner we had last week. At the end of the meeting, I asked people, tell me what would be your speech that you need a leader to give right now. Like to stand up right now and give about education. You write it for me right now. Give me your first like kind of opening sentence or whatnot. And they were pretty good. But I know what mine would be. Like mine would be much stronger than anything we're going to hear anybody who's running for office right now say specifically about education. But they can't say it because they don't think about education enough.
Is it that and they're afraid of losing out the gate?
I mean,
like just imagine, like what would you have to say, right? And will that get you or lose you supporters?
I mean, look what they're saying right now.
Yeah.
On one side, you have nothing but people saying, we're going to save your white children from being indoctrinated by Negro educators, right? That's their whole scare tactic. Their entire educational platform is choice and hate. Two things. They only got two things on their agenda: choice and hate. And they only want choice because they hate. Right? They want choice so they can stay away from your black ass, right? So on one side is giving you choice and hate, and the other side is giving you kids better have my money. Kids better have my money. More money, more money, more money. We've elected both, and we've gotten both. We've gotten a wave of school choice laws passed, and ain't nobody getting an education, and we got bucket loads of money showered from the skies on another side. And kids are still 2 years behind. So what's the third option? Where's my third option?
I don't know, man. I think doing something is your third. I think like I agree with you. I think I heard that a little differently. I heard Chris Stewart say, the game is to be sold, not told. Like, I think that this is like, it's a game, man. Like, the job is to like sell you on some stuff, right? The job is hard to go deep into this topic, and I gotta, you got all these things you voting on, so let me give you something that sounds pleasing to the ear. The issue is a lot of us don't know what we want. We've actually not stopped and really thought about what that means to kind of show up. So now we all showing up to a negotiation table where we take it for granted off top, right? And I'm saying all this as a Democrat and somebody who worked in the party, but then you show up and then you got the microphone, and well, what do you want? What do you stand for? What does that mean? We get talk point to death, and then when the substance time comes, there's nothing there. And then people try to, and they'll take advantage of that. And I say this with love because I remember when Obama got elected. I remember my NAACP meetings. I remember being at the BART station when it was announced that he won. I watched people stop in their tracks and old black people cry. Like it was a moment, you know what I'm saying? But again, it's like, but what are we asking for, and what is it that we're getting? I think a lot of people, when you say hold somebody accountable, I don't think people really, you got to ask the next question. Remember, we've talked about this before. What's the next question? We're going to hold this person accountable. Well, what does that mean, right? What does it mean to hold somebody accountable? I think a lot of people think that means, well, I'm going to just be angry and I'm going to just yell at this person. And I don't know if that's what holding accountable is. Holding accountable is saying,
I'm going to vote him out in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, and then somebody else going to come in and tell you something else that sound good. This is game. I'm telling you, man, y'all need to read Pimp. But I would just say this, right? Like, this is game, yo. It is. Listen, what other profession do you lie constantly? Do you make things? Are you a professional demagogue? Do you make people think if they vote for you or put their trust in you, all their problems is going to go away? A pimp. This is pimp shit. Sorry, Mike, I do curse. I'm sorry. But accountability is saying, hey, we voted you in on this. Now that you're in, what is the plan? What is the practical plan? How long will this take? And if it doesn't happen in this time, what is it that, like, what can we do? What needs to happen? And it's not just voting for somebody, like, and you said this, Chris, I don't want to steal what you said, right? It's not just voting for somebody then backing up. It is saying, yo, check this out. Like, I now have work to do as well. Hey, man, I'm reading your weekly newsletters that you put out. I'm showing up at your meetings. I'm checking on this stuff because what do you need for your babies to be okay? Most people in school boards, listen, man, I won't say the person's name. I'll just say this, though. I still get calls when people run for school board. And I talked to the school board candidate who eventually won. And I said, listen, man, you have a real strong opinion about this, and you trust these people, this, that, and the third. If and when you win, you're going to get access to so much information and so much knowledge that some of which you can't even share with people, some of which you now have this responsibility of governing, and shit is going to get real interesting for you. So kind of go a little easy, bro. You know what I'm saying? Don't have hubris in this stuff and what it is that you're about to do. And I think that we have to prepare our people to be ready, man. And I just can't, don't stop putting your future and all your faith in one person, one entity, and in a system that feeds on itself. Because Democrat, Republican, listen, man, I vote every single time. But when I come to something I don't understand, I do not vote on that thing. I think that's being a responsible voter. And I think that a lot of us are moving forward with a lack of understanding.
I just want to say I agree with most of everything that you just said, Charles, but you made me laugh because I just admitted a couple days ago that I have a strategy for voting for offices that I don't know what they are.
What is it?
It's not a good strategy, but like I might not like your name. Like when it comes to the water board, like the water board and stuff like that, and I see like a Nasifa Muhammad, I'm like, yeah, you got it. This all you. The water board needs you. Now I don't know what that person is thinking about, but that I do know that people don't spend enough time educating all of us in the public about what all these different offices do when they're running for things. So half the times I'm wondering, did they run a campaign? Like, did you even try to engage the public? Because I got all these vote decisions to make. I only know 5 of them out of 10.
Well, listen, let me just say this, right? And that is the whole plan. I'm telling you, Republicans, Democrats, interest groups, I help put these together. We send out a small little index card that might be long, and we tell you voting is coming up. Here's what you vote for, and they go down the list. We are hoping that you don't know what the hell you're looking at. Listen, y'all remember the Clear Skies Act? Clean Skies Act, right? Don't that sound great? They do that because exactly what you said, Chris. No, they do it because exactly what you said, though, right? That was a Republican initiative that was about trading credits around in ways that we could still pollute and China could do what they need to do and we could keep breaking money. But we purposely you were purposely misled. And it's not just one party that does it. The point that I'm making is that a sucker's born every day, man. And at some point we have to take some collective accountability and responsibility around what are the 2 or 3 things we want and kind of like not get bogged down with stuff. Because we talk about Republicans. Here's what Republicans do, and here's how they win. They know who their base is, and they know what to say. There's a really good book called What's the Matter with Kansas? I read it when I was a poli-sci major, and it says, why do people vote against their self-interest? And they break it down. You can apply it wherever. Again, this is not an anti-voting thing. This is a pro-civic union, and you need to do your due diligence as somebody who is a part of this republic. You know what I mean? Because that's what
part of that is civic classes, not just in schools, but teach-ins in the community. Mike, how do you respond to all of this? And also,
sorry about that.
No. How would you respond to what the points that Chris and Cole made? And in addition, folks who may apply for the 2023 cohort of leaders of color, what are you looking for? So if you could, share both of those.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost is loaded, and having dialogue, being a Black and brown man in America or being a Black and brown woman in America is always going to be loaded. Generally speaking, when you talk about the water board, one of the things what leaders of color, what we like to do is talk about all the boards.
See, as soon as he said water board, I started thinking about CIA torture camps. He's talking about like the board, like the school board, the water department board. First thing I'm like,
there's equalization board, water board. There's BART board in the Bay. Yeah,
right. I mean, I remember when I ran for city council at 22 years old, I lost something about like 107 votes, and a month later, the mayor asked me to be on the zoning board. I had no idea what the zoning board was, not knowing that is the most powerful board, arguably the most powerful board in the city. But when we don't sit at these tables, when we don't sit at these tables of decision making, not only the lived experiences are absent, but our opinions and what we know traditionally that is going to work best in these communities are left not even at the door. They're just non-existent, right? Because what you don't see does not exist. So, for me, Sharif, when you talk about what I'm looking for the 2023 class, look, 2024, and I hated this term. It's almost like the term when folks say kids are resilient, Black and brown folks are resilient. Y'all don't think we tired of being resilient? We all walk around with bags under our eyes. Why? Because we wake up and got to be freaking resilient every daggone day, right? So, but I say all that to say 2024 is the most important election of our lifetime. I got
Mike, why? Mike, I love you, Mike. You dope. If I don't hear that shit every single section, every single time, 2000 is the most important. 2002, 98, 68. Why is this one more important, bro? This is more important than when we was deciding if we was going to become a country or a state 2 parts. This is more. Tell me, Mike. Tell me how it's the most important shit. Don't hit us with the lines, B.
No, I'm not. Listen, what I'm not going to be is Democratic punching.
You good? I'm giving you a hard time, man.
lot of times you're gonna say, "Yo, we need to cut his mic off." Well, what I will say is, what we encountered post Donald Trump was Reconstruction 2.0. And what did we do? Right? Because I will say we have to own something. Let's not act like we don't own anything or we can't control anything. We have to own something. And what we're now seeing is this thing that we call the democratic process, right? Democracy as we know it, whether it's totally worked for us or not, is literally unraveling before us. And so we have a decision to make. Are we going to sit here and say, well, I'll wait for Joe Biden, or I'll wait for Fetterman, or I'll wait for this great candidate to run? At some point, we have to realize we are the ones we've been with. At some point, we have to realize we have just as much juice as the next man. Well, it costs money to run. You know, Sharif, I love when people say that because I point to Marquita Bradshaw. Marquita Bradshaw came to the Leaders of Color program. She raised $20,000, ran against a candidate in the state of Tennessee who had $2.1 million. She beat that candidate, and a lot of people don't know this. She was the only African-American woman that was the Democratic nominee for United States Senate in 2020 in the state of Tennessee. So when people say it can't be done, I'm talking about $20,000 versus $2.1 million. Oh, by the way, when she ran for office, she had $5.17 to her name. That is not a talking point. I know that for a fact, right? Y'all had Sister Shalia Harris on, right, a while back. Shalia Harris came through the Leaders of Color program, won in the Trump +3 district. So at some point, we got to give a goddamn about putting us in front of folks or in front of images that we think aren't possible, because they are very much possible. We are seeing this shift of, I need to see more people that look like me. Y'all talked about educators need to run for office. I love when educators need to run for office because they get the simplicity of they understand Medicare for all. They understand universal pre-K, or the concept of universal pre-K. They don't need a binder. They don't need talking points. They're like, you know what? I know the difference when Billy's little badass walks in my class. I know the little difference between, he doesn't have a doctor. So his doctor is either the emergency room or urgent care. And so who's going to pay that bill? What does that look like?
So I gotta get on Charles' energy. See, this always happens towards the end of the show too, right? See, so like we should have started this earlier, but bruh, we're the people that we've been waiting for. This is the most important election ever in our history. We got to start organizing. We're so good at it. Our backbone. We're blah 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 blah. This is why I'm not a Democrat, bruh. Man, we got so many black faces and white spaces in the Democratic Party. We've elected so many of us. We won the election. We saved America multiple times. We saved elections multiple times. We were the deciding factor between fascism, authoritarian rule, and democracy. Like so that's us, right? And we've got everything from a vice president to a couple of senators to lots of House people in the House. And I swear to God, bruh, I hate to say this. I hate to say this about my own people. I haven't heard a bright idea about education in none of these fools in forever. Now, I know y'all can't say that because y'all got to elect these fools, right? But there's an educator from New York in Congress. There's a bartender from New York. There's a grassroots person. There's people that get Medicaid for all. There's people that get civil rights. There's people that understand when to kneel with the kente cloth around their neck. We got all kinds of like Democrats who got all kinds of like virtue signaling behavior on everything. And like I said, from the top to the bottom, we have a vice president of a leader of the free world, all the way down to people on city councils. We own entire city councils, entire school boards, entire school districts, entire superintendencies, and everything else. And to continue to tell the proletariat that the way that we get out of the things that we are right now is to keep investing in the bourgeoisie that only wants a better position within a fucked up system. Right?
Brother Chris, I'm not saying that, but I'm not
that
saying
is
that.
like I know you're not saying that. I know you're not saying that, but I'm just saying we have elected so many people. They're there right now. I can show you pictures of them. We got them.
Right.
We already won the elections. We own the White House. Why we got Uncle Biden up there, and I don't know what he's doing. He don't know what he's doing. But
Kamala gave you a march. You know what I'm saying? We had a party.
Mark, she done talked about HBCUs, you know, like they woo, man, we got all our
Mike,
people.
and Mike, it ain't you, Mike. Like you said, like I love me some Shavar, man. That's actually a brother for real. You also talking to Chris, who wrote a whole report around Democrat-led cities and the education quality in those places. It's the same thing if you look at, and I'm a Democrat. Like I'm saying this as a Democrat, right? But at some point, we got to hold ourselves accountable. I live in a black suburb. I don't trust the water here. We can't even drink water. So it's like, yo, like at some, it's a lot of black places that's ran, and we put you in, and it's rust in the water. It's all kind of stuff in the water, right? Like Mississippi, like that shit is brown, man. It ain't you, Mike. We just talking like we at a conference, but we have to. Only thing I was gonna say, only thing I was gonna say, Mike. Only thing I was gonna say, and I said this last week. We just got to give people more than we the ones who've been waiting for. We not Trump. Trump was so bad. Like we gotta stop. Like we run off black people's pain. We run off black people's fears and what they're scared of, and we never just say, what do we actually want? Like, what are the things that we actually want to see happen? But black pain is so prevalent. It's such an easy, low-hanging fruit, and it's often the best way to go when you run the campaign. I say this as somebody who's helped run campaigns, and it's jacked up. But again, the game is to be sold, not told. But go ahead, Mike. I know, you know, you are amongst friends. I promise you. I swear to God, you are.
No, listen, I love this. I love this, and I'll tell you flat out. I oftentimes, particularly now, I'm a person that gets up top in the morning, watches Morning Joe from 6 to 8 o'clock. When up for coffee, I take my notes, so if I got to react to anything, rapid response. The Democratic Party, to me, should be the doom and gloom party. And so when I talk about ecosystems and pipelines like leaders of color, I'm talking about, look, I told y'all before, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Everybody can't go where we're trying to go. Because you got to remember, Harriet would have killed some of these folks. I didn't want to say the name that I wanted to say, but Harriet would have killed some of these folks. These are the folks that we are trying to take with us, folks that are barbers, the AAU coach, right? The folks that are principals, the folks that literally understand their communities. They're not given a shot because either they're scared of the process or they don't know about the process. That's why I believe in ordinary folks can do extraordinary things. And these are the kind of leaders that we're recruiting, and leaders of color. These are the folks that we're looking at our 2023 cohort to help run for office, to help run for state legislatures, to help run for county commissions, to help run for school boards in 2023, 2024, 2025. This thing is not going to change with the same people in the same playbook that the Democratic Party is going to give us. Right? Like I've been at those tables, right? Where you probably agree with me. There's no way I'm the smartest person at this table. But because we run off of fear. But what happens if we turn our fear into substance? What happens when, you know, we oftentimes we hear about 10 different policy plans I tell anybody that comes to a plan, don't give me a 10-point policy plan. Tell me the 3 things that you're going to do. Because you got to understand the common voter that votes in a presidential election, they only read in the 3rd grade level. And then your midterm voter only reads on the 6th grade level. So a lot of times they can't even read it. Not only can they not read a policy paper, but they can't even read the general newspaper that they get every other day that's in front of them, right? So to me, and this is why I'm kicking and screaming and banging on the table, we need ordinary folks to step up and do extraordinary things. Listen, I love Jim Clyburn like everybody else, and I'll probably get killed for this tomorrow. But do you not think that? I don't think that it's time for, we need somebody else. He's done the work, but we need somebody else. We need other folks to step. We can't say, nah, I'm not running. That's not for me. Why is it? So who's
Ray probably having a heart attack hearing you say that right now.
Right? Who's coming to save us? So
but you know what? We need a majority somebody else's. I'm just gonna be real. I hate to keep pushing on this like this, but bro, we need an upgrade in our leadership. It is time for a lot of people to lead or leave, right? Clyburn is just a good example of where you make a career out of it. It's not public service anymore, where it becomes your long-term job. And God bless him. He's used that seniority through some times where it's been useful, right? Like his seniority was hard-earned, and he used it in some ways. But the corporatist Democrats right now couldn't be more disconnected from the proletariat, and they're all they should all be vulnerable to a recall in some ways. We don't have a problem electing people. We have a problem holding them accountable for results once they're elected. So someone needs to get in a laboratory and figure out the second part, because the first part is easy. We can get people elected. We've proven that we can elect people. We can get lots of people elected. They don't look like us or sound like us. They may look kind of like us, but they don't really. once they get into them rooms and start doing their things or whatnot, stuff changes. We don't have a way to hold them accountable once they're there for results, not just holding accountable, just in general.
Well, why am I worried about you holding me accountable if you're gonna vote for me at a 90%? If you're gonna not vote for me at a 90% clip anyway, like
and Cole, because I know we're running out of time too, but I want to use that point to just
go ahead. I'm sorry,
get Mike just to respond one more time, then we'll get into closing thoughts. So that piece. No, we're going. Mike. This is good. We ain't got no choice. It's 10 o'clock. We're going late. Like so.
Can you also? They asking for Ray. You didn't let him know what's up with Ray. Just he wishes he could be here. There was an injury suffered, but he'll be back.
Ray, when he found out that we weren't talking about Republicans, he just bailed on us. I'm saying he just said no,
I'm done.
Then he heard about talking trash about Clyburn. He's definitely
he turned us off. Ray. He's at least watching us. To be here. He
as soon as Mike said that, he turned it off. You know what I mean? No, shout out to Ray. We see.
I still love me some Whip Clyburn. Don't get messed up.
I'm just teasing. I'm just it's an opportunity to troll Ray on live. You know what I mean? But no, much love to Ray, and we'll see him next week. This idea of what they were both saying about Democrats too, because I think this is and again, like Chris said, we're ending on this, but this is just a continuous conversation we've all had everywhere, right? And so when you think about that Lyndon Johnson quote, I'll have these niggas voting Democratic for the next 200 years. And what that means, how Malcolm looked at, the fox and the wolf and political chumps for, being married to a group, even if they look like us, but they're not from us, right? And everybody talks about Fannie Lou, and we saw the establishment, how they push back. We know folks now who may be Democrat, but if they buck against the machine, what that looks like, right? So all of those things. And then just the practical piece, Mike, I would love for you to weave in. Even if you got the folks who were just like, there was one white candidate in Philly, and he basically was like, yeah, I'm going to let the two black candidates out-black each other, and then I'm going to step in for the win. You know what I'm saying? So just even the technical, practical logistics of all of this, and then the splintering and all of that, how the marriage to the Dems, the tactical part of it, and what's this next generation of leaders? What should it be, right? I think if anything, it should be as close to, the Fannie Lou's and that kind of space, but. I don't know if we're middle class and we're only thinking one way. I don't know if that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because middle class, but not radical enough, right? And I think that's part of my issue is you rarely see something radical, and when it's radical, they're called black radicals. When it's normally a lot of you look at the black radical stuff, you're like, this is basic normal commitment to humanity. This ain't like radical the way y'all make it seem, but black radical is now, that's like, oh, stay away from that. Even the black folks who are like, no, we got to play this particular playbook. They're like, no, the black radicals are too far, over. And I'm like, yeah, we need more radical and look at that as centric, really.
I think, and this is a great question, is borderline emotional. I think when you talk about what the next candidate, the future candidate, particularly around the Democratic Party looks like, they do look like, for better or for worse, the AOCs, the Ayanna Presleys. They look like folks who give a damn about humanitarianism. And I say that because there isn't I think this ideology of hard left or hard right, I think we're arriving at this apex of humanitarianism. Not even capitalism. Like, do you give a damn about your neighbor? It's one of the old things, and where they say marriage or relationships, whatever. Don't tell me you love me, show me you love me. And I think that's what American people are saying all across the country. I think that's what Black and brown people are finally saying across the country. And this is what I love, right? Whether it be Black folks in Philly, or whether it be like my Latino brothers and sisters in New York, we're all saying the same thing. We're all reading off the same sheet of music. Like, you know what? This establishment has to go. One of the things we're seeing, and I've been pressing other folks, we're seeing where places where they want to win seats, we're seeing more progressive, if you will. Progressive doesn't mean progress, but more progressive leaders winning because the progressive fight almost looks more like humanitarianism, right? When we talk about the education system, the problem I have with the education system is nobody is screaming about crisis, but nobody that has a platform, if you will. Is that intentional, Brother Sharif? I don't know. Like I said, you've been in this game longer than me, but I'm going to be sitting.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially who goes there. Like all you got to do is like who attends public schools, particularly the ones in the areas that are more likely to vote, for a black candidate. Who's going to those schools? And where did those politicians go to school? Chris talked about this chasm earlier, right? Like who's going to those schools, particularly the neighborhood school. You look at neighborhood schools in Philadelphia. Man, I don't think there might be one or two black folks who actually attended some of those schools. And they came from they got a different perspective, different lived experience, different talking point, different urgency. Because they ain't go to that neighborhood school that a lot of us went to.
But go ahead, Mike. You just sparked something, bro. You sparked something.
Go ahead. No, I don't want you to lose it. Go ahead. And
I mean, you and I are of the same party, Mike. It's me and you, baby. The rest of them, Sharif is on some other stuff. The other one's a libertarian some days. He switching. He don't know. He just switched. I don't know which one he is, but I'll let him tell it. But
what are you talking about?
You said wasn't a libertarian no more. You just said it last like a
no. That's not what I said.
Okay. I'm sorry. See, hearing is fundamental. My bad.
See, hearing is fundamental.
but
youngster.
But Mike, you and I are Democrats. We have this party. We have sacrificed for this party. We have given money to this party. We have helped make people vote. And I felt like a liar at times for what I've had to do to kind of get people there. And then we get our person in, and then it's not time for that black issue. It's not time for that black thing. You know what our party really got to stop doing, though, Mike? And I'm gonna tell this. You gotta tell this to Shavar too. He don't do this, but. Our party got to stop putting the pressure and the fate of the world on poor people. It got to stop saying like, y'all are, if you don't do this, public education will collapse. If you don't do this, democracy will collapse. If you don't, I'm just trying to fucking live, man. Like I'm just trying to pay this rent in Oakland. That's the most expensive place in the world. Like I'm giving you everything I got. I am getting beat up. I'm getting knocked upside the head. We got movies for it. And I hear you when you say, ain't nobody talking about on their platforms. All I see is people talking on platforms. Everybody got a damn platform. But, and a lot of people that's holding those platforms and talking that talk don't even want the people that they talking about serving in their vicinity. Black Lives Matter got built on the death of black males, and then the damn website didn't even name them in it. They wouldn't even like them, bruh. Like, so if we're going to have this talk, and it's just us, damn a crowd, right? Like, listen, I still like there's Democrat stuff, and I still help, and I still support, and I still do what I need to do. But if it's something I'm not feeling, I'm not going to vote for it. But I am at a place. This is what I want. This is what quality is to me, because there's a lot of those people. And let me just tell you this, bro. Everybody in the hood, everybody that we talk about, everybody not on that super extra left progressivism, man. A lot of that stuff turns people off. A lot of people. Somebody put in the comments, we ain't ready to. They said something about we ain't ready to sacrifice for radicalism. There's a lot of black people that done been through a lot of shit and ain't trying to like put it all on the line. They want to go to work. They want to make sure their kids is safe, and they want to live good lives. And it's like, damn, just being black, it's just a place that we gotta go. So, and again, me and you just the stand-ins for the Dems, bro. But accountability starts with us. And it starts with like, I stepped away because every time I brought up black issues, it was always some other group that was more important. And we gotta wait. Meanwhile, most of my damn friends is dead. Most of these, I lost so many people back from when I was young, to violence, to like health issues, all this stuff that Democrats supposed to care about. But these cats is at the Met Gala, B. So I'll stop there because that was a lot, and I'm not trying to be extra emotional with it, but I just want to have a real conversation about it, if that makes sense. You feel me? Like, y'all
don't tell the truth about Democrats. I mean, like, listen, I think if you're Ray and you're a Republican, you got to tell the truth about the Republicans, right?
Yeah.
If you're me and you're breaking I broke with the LP, with the Libertarian Party. I'm now a Green Party member or whatnot. You got to tell the truth about no matter where you are. When it comes to Democrats, and especially on the issue of education, this is the problem. In corporate Democrats of color are white progressives when it comes to education in blackface, right? There are no Black education champions leaders who are leading on the topic rather than following on the topic. Their talking points, their agendas, what they say in campaigns is the exact same thing that white progressives say, as if their interests are exactly the same as white progressives.
That's probably why they
right?
attack Mike and Shavar and other folks like that, right? Because
Well, and not just him. I want to say this because, like, Mike, to you, bruh. I mean, you just mentioned, Ayanna in Massachusetts, right? And you also started the show by saying that you love Sarah Carpenter, right? Right. Well, Ayanna's the one who, when Sarah brought a whole bunch of grassroots folks, got on a bus and went up to Massachusetts to interrupt Elizabeth Warren's speech to say, you're not going to keep talking over us or above us about education. We want options. We want Black options. We want things we don't have. And we need y'all to stop talking this unionist, corporatist, mainstream Democrat nonsense that you're talking. And who was the person who came to the mic to temper down Black women who had come from miles away to have their say, and led by Sarah, right? It was Ayanna, right? It was a white progressive in blackface. Now I know we can't say that, maybe y'all can't say that as Democrats, but AOC and Ayanna, and you keep going down the list, have 99% of their agenda where I could, like, at least shake my head and be like, yeah, I can see how you would want that. I'm down with early ed. I'm down with childcare and food for kids and shelter and housing and water and saving the planet and climate change. You can keep going down the list. I'm down with all of these things. And then you get to their education agenda, and it's a straight up unionist agenda that has very little imagination for people of color, except for bigger budgets. We just need more money. That's all we need. And oh, by the way, the majority of the money is not going to make it to the kids. It's going to have to go through the filter of the staff. And by the time it gets to the kids, it's only going to be in the form of a nickel for $1, right? That just, it's hard for me to agree with Democrats on so many things. But it's almost so uniform that when they get to education, they have such a lack of imagination. And I'm talking some of the youngest, brightest, most social media all-star type of candidates in the party. When it gets to education, they sound 5 years old. They sound brand new.
Brother Chris, this is what I'll say. And to Dr. Cole, I love that it says Dr. Cole. That's a different waiver. But I'll tell you this. I felt what you said, Dr. Cole, when you said you don't see, and this has been my fight, and anybody who knows me will tell you, one of my biggest fights with Democratic Party, Black men, we only show up when it comes to social justice, marijuana reform, or civil rights reform, right? We don't show up in any other spectrum. Hell, we don't even get polled. But here's where we are. Here's why leaders of color is important. We have an opportunity to, and I won't say reimagine because I'm not asleep. See, when I hear folks say that word reimagine, I need you to wake up because I have to live this trauma every single day. With leaders of color, we have the opportunity to recruit, train, and prepare Black and brown males, Black and brown sisters to take over in this space, right? To put in the work, to put in the grunt work, to say, I need to recruit, if Ayanna is the bar, then you're right. We got to go higher than that, higher than a Johanna, right? But it doesn't exist if we don't have organizations like Leaders of Color. If Shavar Jeffries is not bold enough to say, hey, listen, Mike, this is an idea I have. Do you think it can work? Because a lot of folks will say in this space, it's a great exercise. It's a great social experiment. We'll see what happens, right? Well, folks are getting positions and then they'll freeze, right? But if we're not there to prepare folks with the tools that have been given to our colonial brothers and sisters that they've had for decades, for centuries, then I'm not going to sit here and lie in an excuse and say, you know what, well, damn, well, Ayanna's not doing this, or damn, Johanna's not doing that, or I may not understand why AOC is so radical because it's the second poorest congressional district in the country. What I'm saying is I want to develop from the local level, alongside other Black and brown leaders around this country, from the local level all the way up to the federal level, a new leader that understands that comes from lived experiences. And Dr. Cole, you're right, but I've seen it, man. You're right. I've seen it. I've lived in it. I know we're usually the staffers that have to go with members of Congress or city council members to church on Sundays and drive some kind of familiarity between us and the pastor and let them know that they got a clap on beat when Pastor Minato Gentle Savior comes on. But what I'm saying to you, we have a great opportunity. And so I look at my benchmark in 2024, whether we're still in our 4 major cities or other areas, to say we have to drive new leaders that look like us, that have lived experiences. So I'm going to say, Brother Chris, you got to run for something else. You may not say, oh, I'm tired, or I can't do this, or I don't want to do this. We don't have time to be tired. Our rest is only for a second, right? So if we want to change this thing, and if you and I aren't sitting at the table saying, hey, brother, I need you to help this person to get to not only to run for office, but show them what this looks like, how to raise money, how to use their funds, right? Because we know the first thing they get us caught up in is in wire fraud. So just imagine if this doesn't exist, how much worse could it be? So that maybe I live in the land of the island of optimism too much, but I believe like this thing called Leaders of Color is going to transformationally change our cities and then hopefully change our federal government sooner rather than later. But we've got to have buy-in. The same way we talked on, Brother Sharif, right? Did you have the new breads? The same way we invest $200 into some new breads every other month, I need brothers to invest $200 into Leaders of Color, right? I need brothers to invest in $200 in Brother Sharif, what you're doing for Black male educators. I need us to make those same investments. We're not asking for donations. We're asking for investments. And that's what we have to teach our folks in our community to do. If Bernie Sanders can raise millions of dollars off of $5 and $10, $15, $20 donations, why can't we? And that's the same cry I say to our communities. Don't tell me we can't raise money. Don't tell me you can't. Yes, you can. And it's not always about money, because I've literally seen it. I saw it my first year here. We've got to make the investment in each other, man. And as much as I love Mike and all these other amazing things that we spend money on, materialistic things, we've got to turn that money into Black and brown political power. And I guarantee you can happen faster than anything.
Well, look, we're going to wrap up. Thanks for the audience who've, stayed with us. We're going to go into final thoughts. Doc, you want to kick us off?
Yeah.
Mike, you're going to end it. We're going to come back to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, and I wanted to start by thanking Mike for coming on and just kicking it with us, man. Again, like I think people, I think people are just not used to seeing just Black dudes just talk freely and have real conversations. So thank you for kicking it. And I hope you felt welcome, and I hope you know that you're welcome back anytime you want to come back. I'll start my piece off because somebody asked in the comments, well, why are you still a Democrat, right? So let me just tell you, one of the things is if I look at a list of people's values and groups' values or whatever the case is, and I look and see which one I check the most boxes with, that's the one. I'm still Democrat because I've invested time. I've put sweat into it. I've worked there. I've helped people get elected. I've helped, people support people. I've been asked to run, but I actually think that I had a lot more power behind the scenes, and that's why I tend to stay there. And because I do think there's some potential there, and they just need to be pushed. And I think that both parties, all major parties, the same way corporations or whatever, bank on people not having information. Well, damn it, you got one that got some information. You got one that done seen how this thing go. I would prefer, and I would personally appreciate, even though I don't know if the masses is ready for this, I'd appreciate a school board member that's running to say, check this out. School board is not just about educating kids. I know you think that. I know you wish that were true, but it's actually usually the largest economic system, a top 3 job provider in cities. And this ain't just about like education is one part, contracts is another one. Who gets contracted to do the grass, to cook the food, all that stuff, right? Like if somebody was really honest about that and understand and had that conversation, I personally appreciate that. But I think sometimes as a people, with everything being complicated, we need a simple message. So I would just say this, man. Mike, you are right. There is opportunity. There's always opportunity, bro. But just like anything with potential got an expiration date. I think that people have been sold a message for so long that when you are dealing and you are constantly trading in Black pain or Black fear to do things, that fear and pain turns into apathy. And that apathy turns into ways that I just got to survive. Because if the organization, if the apparatus is not thinking about me, well, I have to now become narcissistic to survive, right? Like, and then we get mad at people and say, well, they ain't thinking about everybody else. because they felt like nobody was thinking about them. And we are allowing people in power that got resources to act like they in the same boat with us. They ain't in the same boat. They is not in the same boat. Some people is on a raft, yo, and that thing collecting water, and some people is on a yacht. And funny enough, the people that own and buy yachts are the same people talking about we got to get rid of capitalism. Okay, guess what? All these parties, both of these major parties, love them some capitalism. So I don't know where that goes, but I just say, man, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for this engaging conversation. And love to Sarah and Shavar. I owe you a call, good brother, man. And I hope that you come back, man. I really hope that we can keep having these conversations, and people vote for whoever you want to vote for and do what you need to do. Like, I know what I'm gonna vote on, but like, don't just wait for the pamphlet to come. Don't just wait for the track to come. Like, know what you voting for, and like, they ain't gonna never change if I can count on you. Like the damn next bus is coming, B, and we gotta start negotiating. And just as I close, I would love for Black people to act like free agents, act like LeBron James, sign a 1-year contract, a 2-year deal every single year. And the team that want me the most, and come get me, come talk to me. You know what I'm saying? We just so happy to be able to ring that hammer down that we forgot to ask for shit. And that's my prayer for all of us. Figure out what you want to ask for it.
Hey, Stuart, what's your final thoughts, sir?
Well, I want to make note that there was a hater in the crowd tonight who made 2 comments from a fake Facebook group, and just want to acknowledge, we see you, white nationalists.
I didn't see it. What they say?
In ed reform. Not enough Black people know the real work that needs to be done once, if we ever solve the race issue. That's why race is the only issue they know how to approach when it comes to education, right?
The racists never want you to talk about race. It's like a fascinating phenomenon.
No, my favorite thing is how brave they are, so much brave that they get to create fake profiles.
I mean, that's their ancestors, right? Like KKK hoods, fake profiles on social media. I see a thread there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, masks, keyboard warriors. So, anyways, I just wanted to make note of that. Also, too, Mike, love the work that you are doing. So when we give kind of like these type of analysis that we give, it's just us trying to be as true as we possibly can to the subject matter, right? And that's what I'm trying to do here. I feel like I owe you that. I feel like I owe Shavar that, and everybody who's doing the serious work to try to get good leaders into place. So you're hearing my 54-year-old cynicism is what you're hearing, and you're also hearing my frustration.
I meant to say, damn.
Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. God damn it. We did this in the 80s. And then we do this in the 90s.
I'll time it next time you say 54, I'll have it timed better than Kevin Hart. I gotta watch that show. Yeah.
Hey man, you look damn good for 54, man. I'm glad you with us amongst the living, B.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
100%.
But here's my bottom line on it. As a new member of the NEA, I just want to put that out to everybody. I am a member of the
Chris.
NEA now. Yes.
Yeah, Chris.
So, and a returning member to the Green Party. I am changing in my politics and being more taking the rose-colored glasses off, because we do need to make progress, but we can't do it with the people that we have right now. And that's Democrat, Republican, anybody who's in the mainstream of politics right now. When it comes to education, I don't expect them to know much. We know in our networks lots of people that run good schools and that are educating children every day or trying their damnedest to do it. And they know some things in terms of pedagogical interventions in how you use the science to impact learning. These aren't insignificant items to know if you want to talk about education. So when it comes to people running for office, I think my advice to voters and to parents and to other people who are going to be asked for your vote is to ask a few questions to anybody who's running for anything. What do you know about teaching and learning? What do you know about data and outcomes when it comes to schooling? Don't just ask about education, and don't just settle for answers around we need more money or we need to stop the teachers from indoctrinating or any of the dumb things that people are saying. If you get a facile, meaning surfacey answer from anybody running for anything, tell them that. Tell them that their answer is not good enough. And tell them that you will continue looking for another candidate until you find someone who can speak to the issue of teaching and learning, outcomes and data. And then go from there, right? If it's a Republican, if it's a Democrat or whatnot. Also, I know one thing that Sharif wanted to talk to that we didn't get to in this conversation was, can we afford to be a one-issue voter, right? A year ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago or some time ago, I probably would have said yes, because education is the most important damn thing. The intellectual development of Black people and Black children is the thing I'm going to ride my hat on and blah, blah, blah. Since then, people gave me a whole bunch of other things to worry about too. So the idea that I'm just going to vote on school choice or vote on charters or vote on education and forget about the fact that we need clean water, we need healthcare and medical and all kinds of other stuff in our lives to be successful, can't be a single issue voter. So anyways, brother, thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate you taking this onslaught, because, we got one Democrat and he was even kind of harsh. So that tells you Democrats got some issues, because even he's
hey,
like
it's rooted
Democrat.
in love, man. It's rooted in love.
Anyways, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate Shavar and all that y'all are doing.
Yeah. Mike, your closing thoughts, bro. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, man. Thank you all. I mean, you three brothers are phenomenal. Like I said, this was borderline bucket list for me. The one thing I'm passionate, again, outside of my two beautiful daughters, and what we can do to protect Black women, Black and brown women, are ensuring that Black men, Black and brown men, have a space, because we don't. It doesn't matter what party you belong to, doesn't matter what corporation, what institution you belong to. Oftentimes I feel like we don't have a space. So thank you for that. Thank you for the work that you've done, because it means a lot to me. Secondly, Dr. Cole, you're right. I need folks to understand that as much as you may or may not want to run for office or be involved in your community, we have to. We have no other choice. I really mean that. Nobody's coming to save us. I'm not going to dwell in fear. We have to stand up for what we believe, because ideally, when we sit down and think of an issue or we think of problems, you'll be surprised. Maybe you are the only one that has either thought of that issue, or you're the only one that lives in that issue. And we need more lived experiences in our government and our community versus folks that live in the land of about to do, or that need a focus group or a poll to tell them what to do. Third, I would ask everybody to visit our website, leadersofcolor.net, find out what we do, who we are. If you know folks that live in Memphis, DC, New York, the state of Louisiana, please tell them apply. Do we plan on expanding? Absolutely. But as we know, we can only go so far as the dollar goes. But I think for better, for worse, we've done more with less for a long time. And I'm tired of doing that as well, brothers. But I will I'll end on this. We have a great opportunity. And you're right. I don't care if it's Stacey Abrams. I don't care who it is. And but Dr. Cole, like you said, why am I a Democrat? I'm a Democrat because when I wake up as a Black man, regardless of anything, I think there's only one party that I could lean on for support. There's only one party that at this time, there's only one party that I can lean on for that kind of support. And I may grow to a different ideology 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now. But when it comes to getting the work done, I can identify these are the folks that I can get work done with. And I think whether it's folks who have the indigenous folks here or the folks that have migrated here for a better opportunity, we owe it to ourselves to continue to fight for that. So I would love to come back and talk about, especially the union talk. Oh my God. I'd love to jump into that and how we've defeated unions. But let's talk about how we can continue to do that work. And I'm trying to come to Sherry. I'm trying to come to the ATL. Trust me, I have a phenomenal two brothers, a brother and a sister that we're working with to try to make that happen. But man, this has been so heartwarming. The only thing that really sucks today is that the Raiders lost, but Ohio State won, so there's that. But thank you for this work, man. And like I say, we don't sleep. We just take long ass blinks, and we got to get up and drive with the hammer in our hand every day. And let me just last point. I want to say I just want to say thank you to all the fellows that have come through our program the last 3 years since I've been here. To do this during the pandemic, to do this with such financial insecurity, economic insecurity, economic instability, and say, I want to go get these tools. I want to be in this program to help change my community. And they stayed in it at a 98% attendance rate across the country, over 215 folks. Phenomenal. So I just also want to give a huge shout out to our leaders. So thank you.
I just want to say that the brother made me change my hat when he said defeating unions as the newest member of the NEA.
You got a hat rack right in front of your computer, bro?
As the newest member of the NEA, I would like to welcome you to my hat.
Welcome you to my hat.
And you will come back and we will have that conversation.
Yeah, most stuff. Look, Mike, listen, every time, we get to connect, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that you're in this space pushing and challenging, against the norm, even within a traditional, party, so to speak, because of, the age and, what is done and all of that. I appreciate when you and Shavar are able to be inside of a party and push and challenge it. I think that is such a critical part. Like we always had to have an inside outside game, outside of organizations and systems and parties, as well as inside of it. Because if it's just the outside folks, that's not going to move as much as if it's strategic, right? Inside outside game. I think we need far more independent thinkers, right? Like I think that out of all of this, that's what I'm hearing all of you communicate, in this space, particularly for education. And education is rarely, everyone, it becomes a thing when people are like, oh yeah, they are the education mayor or education sit, right? Like it is so rare they actually get a title for it if they even mention anything about education besides the broadest, blandest, weakest points. Right. And, I want people to show up the way their posters and their T-shirts show up. Right. When they talking to all of that about like by any means necessary, how about we educate Black kids by any means necessary? Let me see what that looks like besides your cute poster. Besides that, besides your T-shirt, what does it actually look like to educate Black children by any means necessary? To me, that's what this should be about. And that's what we have to push and challenge and force folks to do, and not just, hey, I'll see you in 4 years, I'm gonna vote you out, right? Like not that kind of thing. Like no, like, and not just the hollering and screaming at the press conference either, because that ain't enough either. Right. But there's some, you actually, what's a strategy? Who else can you align with that's going to block some of the nonsense that they're trying to push and then come back around? Right. Like, and, people also don't want to be called out. Right. Who, what are those op-eds? What are the writing? When Dr. King says you want to change the world, pick up a pen. Pick up that keypad. Pick up that keypad. Organize it and let's get to it. So there's so much work to do. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the audience being here with us, chiming in, adding content and comments to the chat. Thank you. Let's continue this conversation. We got much work to do. And I agree with Mike. Every single election that's coming up is the most important election of our lifetime. I do firmly believe that, because racism and white supremacists are always organizing, and they look at every single election as their most important. So for us to think like it ain't ours, that means that's already we're losing. Thanks again. You've been listening to episode 179 of the 8 Black Hands. Be out there and have a great week.